America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning and welcome to the January 22nd, 2019 Board of Selectmen's meeting. We have one item on the agenda. It's to interview a candidate for the town administrator's position, and it is Jeff Bridges, and we tried it the other day via Skype and it didn't work, so hopefully we'll do better today.
Yeah, we will call him. I know he's standing by.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yep, I can. Can you?
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, it's nice it works this time.
Yeah, we changed.
How's the weather up there?
It's nice today. It's 33 degrees, and at some point today it'll be bright sunshine.
That's ridiculous. It's 5 here.
It's 5 degrees.
So you haven't met the board. Down at the beginning, we have Priscilla Jimis, Chase Kabinski, Mike Supernat. You know Mary Darling, and I'm Mary Blanchard. Okay, before we ask questions, could you please give an overview of your career and your thoughts about coming to Sturbridge? We have your resume, but this is for the folks at home.
Sure. I got my start in my career when I got elected to be the town supervisor in Wayne, New York. I was 23 years old. I had just gotten out of college the year before, and the local committee didn't have anybody to run, and I had been involved in politics in college, and my father had been involved in the town. He said, well, put my son up. That particular party never won anyway, so I won. And I spent 4.5 years doing that, realizing I liked that kind of work. I went back and got my master's degree while I was a town supervisor in public administration, and then got married right before I got my master's and realized I needed a full-time position to support a family. So I found a position in Kansas as a budget analyst. I enjoyed that side of the business, budgets and finance. So I went to Kansas and became a budget analyst in the governor's budget office for about a year. And although I liked the work, dealing with the legislature and some of those things wasn't my cup of tea. I enjoyed local government much better. I then took a job with the city of Andover, Kansas, which was a rapidly growing suburb of Wichita, and spent 11 great years there doing a lot of good work. And after 11 years, it was time to try something else. So the city's financial advisor was going through a transition in personnel, and the person who serviced the city of Andover's account left, and they asked me to take that spot, and they sent me to school to get my Series 7 and Series 63 licenses to do securities work. I did that for about a year, working mostly western Kansas, traveling from cities and counties, doing financial advisory work, bond issues, those kind of things. It was interesting, but I really enjoyed local government. And the recruiter for Wethersfield was having difficulty getting candidates, and he knew I was from the East Coast, so he called and asked if I would be interested in Wethersfield. So I flew out, spent a couple days with the town, and I was hired to be their town manager and spent approximately 9 years doing that. And again, after 9 years, it got stale for both me and the governing body. So I left there in June of this year, began looking for a new gig. Saw Seward, Alaska for an interim, applied, and it's been very interesting. It's a great little city, very busy, but my tenure is 6 months here and it expires in mid-March. I'm looking for a full-time gig. Sturbridge is one of those communities that reflects New England. You're historic but progressive, great people, beautiful community, history of positive management, history of positive political activity. The town meeting form of government is interesting to me. I've never been part of that before, but it seems so natural for New England. And I would look forward to working in that environment.
Okay, thank you. Priscilla?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Describe the approach you would take to address the desires of members of the community to keep it like it is, as well as those in the community who want to see new ideas, innovations, and businesses which may change the nature of the community but expand the tax base. What steps would you take to address all needs effectively and in the best interest of the town?
I think the first thing I'm going to do for all issues is spend a lot of time listening. I come in with my experiences and my history, but the town has its own history and its own experiences that people want to share with new manager or new administrator, no matter who that person may be. And there's always going to be a set of competing interests on all issues. So looking at in that particular instance, when you're talking about, physical changes to the community, long-term economic development changes, working with the people who put together the comprehensive plan, working with the Planning Commission, areas identified for commercial development, residential development, areas identified for preservation or where you don't want to see a lot of growth. I think there's balance. I think the community has to find that balance. The administrator has to facilitate that balance and understand when projects are positive for the long-term goals of the community and when they're negative for the long-term goals of the community, and work with developers to understand that vision and find projects that fit that vision. So it's about listening. It's about understanding the desires of the community. It's about understanding the decisions the community has already made in terms of where it wants to see growth and where it doesn't, and the overall capacity of the city's or the town's infrastructure. So all those things come together into forming a framework of decision making for both the administrator and the boards and commissions and the governing body.
Thank you.
Chase?
Good morning. The most important part about Sturbridge is our great residents. How would you strive to develop relationships, and would you have an open door policy?
I've always enjoyed an open door policy. If I'm in the office and I'm not visiting with somebody else, whether it be department head or resident or governing body member, I make it a point to tell my coworkers that I'm available to talk to somebody, regardless of the issue. If they've made the point to come to town hall to talk to the administrator should make themselves available if it's possible. I also plan on being present in the community, events, Chamber of Commerce meetings, Rotary Club, Lions Club, Kiwanis, whichever groups are available to participate with. Go to activities. All those things are part of the administrator becoming part of the community. At some point, my family and I will relocate to whichever community I land in. One of my goals, and I expressed this to the search committee, is I have a daughter who's a junior in high school. So the goal is to keep her in Wethersfield for now. I would find residency, if not in Sturbridge, close by, way I can be part of the community. I think that's important for the chief executive officer or the administrator to be part of the community, and I'd like to do that. But the residents will always welcome on my office regardless of the topic.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yes. This question is on the general subject of balancing goals and objectives. In the past year, Sturbridge has become a green community, a complete streets community, and we received a grant to become a dementia-friendly community. In addition, the Board of Selectmen gave the former town administrator 9 goals and objectives last January. to work on, 9 goals and objectives to work on. How would you go about balancing all these goals and objectives and reporting back to the Board of Selectmen on the progress on these?
I would report back monthly, weekly, whatever the frequency governing body would like to see. I think having goals and objectives for the manager is a positive thing. It provides a work plan, both the administrator and the governing body, as a way to evaluate the effectiveness of the administrator. And it's a way for the administrator to understand the goals and objectives of the governing body. So I think that'd be a very positive thing. Some of those goals probably have longer critical paths than others. I think the administrator needs to understand those action steps for implementation for each and develop a work plan for him or herself to get them done. But the frequency of reporting is whichever the governing body would like. Right now, I do a weekly management report. In Seward, we call it a city manager's report, CMR. In Weathersfield, it was the town manager's report. But there'd be some document and which would not only include those goals and objectives of the governing body, but activities of departments as well.
Thank you.
Mary? Thank you. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Got a two-part question. It's my way of sneaking two questions in at once. So we all make mistakes in our professional career. Please share with us a situation where you wish you would have handled a situation differently with a colleague. And then the flip side of the coin, share with us a few projects that you handled in the last 5 years, or a situation that you handled well in the last 5 years that you are particularly proud of. I'm giving you both, a mistake and an opportunity to show what you're proud of in your career.
Let's see, mistake. In the last 5 years, there was an issue in Weathersfield where there was a desire to amend. We had a local pension plan, and the pension committee, which was, we ran it ourselves, the employees in the governing body. So there was a desire from some of the retirees to amend the pension plan so they could double dip. And I was against that. And I got passionate about being against that because I just think it's wrong. So probably my passion got away from me in that issue with a couple people, which probably I could have handled better. But at the end of the day, a majority of the governing body on their own realized that they shouldn't allow the double dip, and they didn't. It never got to the point of a vote, but some of the governing body members that were understanding of finances and pensions told the group that wanted the change, no, it was just not going to happen. So that was a positive thing. In terms of what I'm proud of, a lot, actually. We finished the renovation of the Weathersfield Public High School, and I developed the work plan for that, not the renovations itself, but who was responsible for what. Before I got to Weathersfield, they had done a middle school renovation that went poorly, not from a construction point of view, but from a handling the money and the paperwork and the process point of view. When we did the high school project, I put together who would take care of what, who would oversee what, and we established the scope for each group. For instance, the Board of Education would handle the education program that was to be introduced into the renovation, and they handled the the people flow in the building because it was under renovation, and kept the program going. The building committee oversaw the project overall, but the town handled the contracts and the money. So we developed these kind of different elements to the project, and it got done. The construction ended 20 days later than anticipated, but like $500,000 on budget, and it's a great project. Also, in the last year, we've added new synthetic turf to our recreation field, and we were under the gun to get it done before the high school team. And we had a synthetic turf field, but it was 14 years old. So we renovated that in 9 weeks, got it bid, designed, ripped up, and put down in 9 to 10 weeks, which was phenomenal. And if you look back at my career, whether it be in Andover or Wawayanda or Weathersfield, I have a history of completing projects and doing good work. So I'm proud of most of what I've done. A couple of conversations in my career probably should have went better, but for the most part, I look at my record of work as very positive.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, what do you see as the role of the town administrator and Board of Selectmen as far as responsibilities, duties, and interaction?
Well, given you have a town meeting form of government, the town administrator really, and particularly when appointments and hires have to be approved by the Board of Selectmen, which is all good, it's more of a facilitative role. I mean, they're responsible for the day-to-day operations, and they're going to be held accountable for that too. But it's not where they have the final say in a lot of these issues, which is okay. That's the nature of the government. But that requires more education, more team building, more consensus building, those kind of things. And the Board of Selectmen, because it is a town meeting form of government, needs to be much more transparent, much more open, much more communicative, collegial with the community, because a lot of it has to go to town meeting, particularly budgets. So it's a much more involved process with the community, since the final say is the people, which is the nature of the service government.
Okay, thank you. Priscilla?
What are the 3 top challenges facing municipal officials today? What actions would you take to ensure Sturbridge is effectively prepared to face these challenges over the next 5 years?
Well, the biggest single elephant in the room for everybody is going to be pension and OPEB obligations. I think Sturbridge has a $26 million pension liability with the Worcester pension plan. You have a $16 to $17 million OPEB liability, and your OPEB contributions have been modest. So I think that's going to be a challenge as you look at rating agencies and the ability to access capital for bigger projects. Those balances will become more important. I think finding people that want to work in the public sector is a big challenge. It's getting harder to recruit and retain and be competitive because the private sector, at least now with low unemployment, it's hard to recruit and retain qualified people, particularly police officers. It's become a very difficult position to fill. And also the recruit training is very long, and it takes a long time to get an officer on the street. So those are 1 and 2. Number 3, I think you're dealing with a public that is unsettled in many areas. Those are things, whether it be national politics, state politics, local politics, the people are just unsettled, and it's hard to find a dispassionate way to have conversations anymore. So local government has to be the adult in the relationship when we look at government in general. We have to be the reasonable ones. We have to be the pragmatic ones. We have to provide good management and stewardship to the communities, and we have to reinforce the fact we're not spinning off a taxes, that things still get done. The wastewater still gets treated. The water still comes out through your tap. The roads will get plowed. The police will come to your door. The fire department comes to your door. We're going to reinforce those values every day. We're going to provide good management to our employees. So when someone asks, is Sturbridge a good place to work? We're going to say yes. So you are able to recruit and retain. We're going to be competitive in benefits is to the best of our abilities. And so we can keep people. But we have to create an environment that things are okay, and that we're going to have a plan, and we're going to be able to move this town down a path in a positive way, regardless of all the noise going on around us.
Thank you.
Chase?
How important is economic development in a community to you? And could you give me an example of something that you have done to help economic development in a town you have worked in?
Just to quote a phrase that's probably well overused, if you're not growing, you're dying. I think economic development is something that every community needs to do, whether you do it aggressively or whether you do it modestly, depending upon your needs and your capabilities. I'm sure there's areas in Sturbridge that are ripe for economic development and that the community has found to be the desired location, whether it be at the intersection of state highways or whether it be in an already commercialized area or reusing older industrial spaces. There's always going to be opportunities, and the town should take advantage of those opportunities. In Weathersfield, we were fully built out, so economic development was about redevelopment. We had some modest success in Weathersfield. Most recently, we did a tax abatement agreement for the new multifamily units. We had not had a new apartment complex built since the 80s. So we attracted a developer to do that, and they tore down some older buildings and built a new apartment building. Andover, we had tremendous success. It was a booming community. We built hotels, we built a medical building, we built 250 brand new houses a year. We partnered with the YMCA to build one of the largest YMCA facilities in the country. Did a lot of public-private partnerships, particularly with infrastructure improvements. I think that's where the community can really participate with developers, is helping out with the infrastructure and tax abatement policies. So it's a package. It's an overall vision and a goal, depending on if you want to do it a lot or a little. And based upon the first question, there's a character to a community. And a lot of people move to a community or exist in a community because it has that character. I think it has to be careful not to change that. Weathersfield has the largest historic district in the state of Connecticut. And it was very concerned that its historic district's image and culture would change through economic development. So the preservation of those buildings, the preservation of that character and that quality of life in the historic part of Weathersfield was very important. And that was one of the goals of the community, was to maintain that, as well as repurposing some of the older buildings for economic use.
Thank you.
Mike?
Jeff, this question's related to your experience with complex major projects. You touched on that already with the high school thing, but I'm going to give you a specific project in Sturbridge. Our main street on Route 20 is our commercial tourist district. It's got a very high, the traffic congestion is an issue, and it'd be, it's also, the town did a study about 5 years ago of this district, and presented some alternatives. Right now, the Regional Planning Agency is doing a corridor profile as we speak, and I believe the town will want to move a major project ahead. The study 5 years ago indicated that the cost of the project would be well over $20 million. Route 20 is a state highway. It's a U.S. primary route. It's a major evacuation route for the region. So I just, if you can come up with some experience, relevant experience that you have on major complex capital projects, please describe your relevant experience.
Right. And transportation is always going to be key. On a road like that, I think it's great you did the study 5 years ago. I think having big projects like that, and you do a study or you put a plan out there and you spend time communicating the plan with the public, you spend time with, particularly on a state highway, DOT, what are they bringing to the table? That's what you do. You communicate, you work the problem, you look at each business and each property owner along the way. You talk to each business and property owner along the way. You talk to the affected parties. You kind of put together a plan on how this is going to work. On big projects, it's really about communication. It's really about giving people time to digest the positives and negatives, and then listening to people. As I've gotten older and more mature in the profession, I've become a much better listener than speaker. I think that's important. And on big projects, you just have to kind of work them every day. If they're an emergency, that's one thing. But on a project like this, really important that you hear from the community. It's really important you work with DOT, and maybe to gather more public interest, you have to modify the project a little bit. Is it something you want to do a streetscape on? In Andover, we added 10-foot sidewalks to our major corridor renovations so people could walk and ride their bikes along these pathways. It's a function of listening to the community. Big projects in Andover, we had US Highway 400 that was going through Andover, and in Wichita they were doing a flyover, which was a huge project, $100 million a mile. And we weren't going to do anything like that because eventually that would land in Andover at the county line. So we put together kind of a corridor management plan which was about 8 miles long, and we did it with the county and the city south of us, Rose Hill, where we would preserve right away as parcels developed. We would preserve the right of way 100-foot wide where it wasn't before. On undeveloped land, we approved projects that could accommodate the wider width of the future expanded highway. On big projects, you just have to have a vision, and you have to give the community time to digest and work the problem. $20 million is a lot of money, but on a highway project, it's probably not. So it's kind of consistent with what's going on. In Andover, we took a lot of 2-lane roads and made them 4 lanes. And we did it with the cooperation of the community. We had a local sales tax that funded our share. We worked with the regional planning agency, and we got a lot of money through that. Yeah, so whether it be a school project, which was $84 million, highway projects, building a new library, which we did in Andover Police Station. It's about communication and educating the public on the goals. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, Mary?
Hello again. You already touched upon this with previous answers, but tell us how you are a good fit for this particular position as a town administrator. And if you could also, in giving that answer, elaborate a little bit more about why you moved on from Weathersfield. I mean, that's a considerably larger community, much larger budget, lots of employees, so I'm sure it was challenging work. Why are you ready for Sturbridge? Why are we a good fit at this point?
Just to back up from moving on from Weathersfield, the mayor and I agreed it was time. It was 9 years, and we had finished the high school project, which consumed a lot of everybody's time. That project, we met twice a month as a building committee for 5 years. We worked through a lot of issues, from environmental to budget issues to standards, communities. So after that project was over, it was probably time for me to move on. The community was moving into the next phase of a series of renovations. We had a new governing body. And 9 years is a long time in Weathersfield. I was the second longest serving manager they had. And I was going to move on after 10 anyway, because I think managers get stale after a while. Why Sturbridge? I'm a New Englander. It's a great New England town. It is smaller than Weathersfield, but when you look at Weathersfield, and I know Sturbridge the same way, we had a $104 million budget, but almost $70 million of that was schools. So our real budget was $36 million. I know yours is somewhere around 18 after schools or 16 after schools, something like that. So as I get older in the profession, I'm enjoying I used to be the youngest person in the room and very passionate, and maybe sometimes that was a disservice to me. But now that I'm maturing in the profession, I'm taking on a more mentor, communicator, facilitator mentality. The world is not coming to an end. My hair's not on fire every day. So I'm looking forward to working in community, and I think I've done that in Seward. We have a young crew, and I'm teaching them a lot about their capabilities as managers and teaching them to be managers and teaching the community about how to resolve conflict. And it's not really teaching them, but they had a meltdown, and my goal here is to calm things down and to put them back on a path of positive management. I believe I've done that. And Sturbridge is not in that position at all. You enjoyed a very good administrator, and I know you're looking for the next one to do just as good a job. So being a mentor, working in a town meeting environment is interesting to me. I've not done it before, and I always look for a new challenge. So it's not that it's smaller, different, and I would look forward to that. And it's a great community, great people. And again, I'm a New Englander. What better place in New England than Sturbridge, right?
True.
I think, did you say to us that you grew up your mother from Worcester, am I recalling correctly? Or did you grow up in?
My mother-in-law is from Worcester.
Your
My
mother-in-law.
mother's from Revere.
Okay.
And my father's from Lynn. I'm from Lynn. My family, my aunt's is still in Revere. So yeah, we're New Englanders. We're Massachusetts. I was born in Massachusetts. It's a great state.
Thank you.
Okay, what experience have you had with collective bargaining?
Great question. Actually, I've come to enjoy collective bargaining. When I got to Weathersfield, Weathersfield has six bargaining units on the town side and another 5 on the bed side. And the town of Weathersfield had no human resources manager, so the town manager was responsible for collective bargaining, which was fine. So in the 9 years I was there, I negotiated 18 contracts, 3 years, every 3 years these were up. No, maybe not 18, but maybe 15. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the give and take. I enjoyed the outcomes. 3 of them went to arbitration due to whatever decision-making the union made. Governing body was very consistent in its message to staff about what was possible and what was not. When I got to Weathersfield, we again had our own local defined benefit pension plan. We offered retiree health benefits to employees. So the governing body made a decision to change those benefits. So I spent the first round of negotiations with every bargaining unit, except police. We kept those benefits in, but reduced them severely. Removing the defined benefit pension plan, removing retiree health benefits, because Weathersfield has an unfunded liability of $69 million in pension and another 40-something million in OPEB. So we changed all that. So a very positive experience with collective bargaining. And on the board side, I had to sit as the pension negotiator because they're non-certified people, part of the town's pension. So I negotiated that with the board groups. Good results there. Again, eliminated the defined benefit pension plan for those groups. And then in Seward, what's interesting is because of the meltdown and the animus between the administration and the staff formed a union before I got here. They have one union in the electric department, just the linemen, but the remaining staff of about 60 employees formed a new union. And it was my task to negotiate the first contract, which we are almost complete on, and it's very positive environment. So I enjoy collective bargaining. I do.
Okay, thank you. Priscilla?
My last question is, what are your personal core values, and how have these influenced your work ethic and how you approach your responsibilities?
I believe in honesty. And sometimes if you run my references, and I think Mr. Lynch has, you'll find that sometimes my honesty gets me into trouble. And as a younger person, maybe I was too honest. But I believe in being honest. I believe in not creating expectations that I have no ability to fulfill. I believe most things are possible with the will of the governing body. But I also am not going to promise somebody something that I have no capability of delivering. But that's my core trait. I also believe when in doubt, stick to the governing body. Never try to hide anything, because that you need the trust of the people. And the only way to get the trust of the people is if you trust them to help you make decisions, right? You cannot hide things from them. This is their money. This is their town. You are just a steward. And your stewardship is based upon a level of trust between the people and the administration. So honesty, transparency, being forthright in what's possible and what's not possible. Those are my core values in local government. I believe we are here to make people's lives as comfortable as possible as everybody else screws them up.
Thank you.
So if you wake up in the morning and there's no water to take a shower, and if there's no ability to flush your toilet, and you drive out of your driveway and the roads are horrible and your kids' schools are terrible, what kind of quality of life are you going to have? What kind of feeling about your community are you going to have? We need to do those things that make people's lives better every day. And most of it should be unseen, just happen. You know, if the nature of the conversation in the community is about the town government, we've lost, right? People's conversation should be about family and church and community, and the kids play at the high school, they're going on vacation. But if the nature of the conversation turns to the town, we've lost, right? It shouldn't be that way. It should not be the focus of people's attention.
Thank you.
Chase?
How do you approach department heads? Do you have a heavy presence visiting them, getting out of the town hall, going to the different buildings and communicating well with them?
I believe I do. I believe that's my practice. As much as possible, you want to make sure you spread it around. I enjoy visiting with department heads. I enjoy understanding what they're doing. So I very much travel around the town and visit daily, weekly. It's not unusual in a small community to see your direct reports every day, depending on what's going on. So I believe I work collaboratively with department heads. I don't like to demand things, because I think that makes people uncomfortable. I will if I have to. A good department head doesn't need to be asked twice, and that's a training issue. I think the more you work collaboratively, the better the product. And I don't like to come to solutions for a department head. I think you tell them, this is the goal. We want to get to here based upon what you know about your job. How do we get there? And hear their input and come up with a plan. I know the answer to everything. I just want to make sure it happens for the community.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, this is a question on community engagement, engaging with different groups within the community. And I was asked this one by some of the seniors at our senior center. They want to know whether you would occasionally visit the senior center and talk to them and listen to their problems, and you know, there are other groups in town too that would probably wish the same. So I just want you to describe how you would engage with our community.
I would love to visit with the seniors at their senior center or wherever in their group. I think that's one of the cool things about my job, is I get to visit with these groups and hear their goals and hear what they're doing and hear good stuff, and even the stuff that we need to work on as a community. While I've been here, I've gone to in Seward. I've been here, I've gone to the Rotary meetings and the Chamber of Commerce meetings and all kinds of meetings. And that's what you do. You visit with people. The administrator is the formal link between the community and some of these community groups that we partner with, and that's what they are. They're community partners. So as much as I can, as much as I can be invited, I would love to visit with these groups, whether it be the Rotary or the Kiwanis or the Lions or whichever groups are available. The youth, you know, in Andover, we had a lot of sports teams, so we visited with the leagues when they were organizing each year. Weathersfield, tremendous community groups, and I was at different meetings each night of the week. It just depends on what's going on, if I'm available, but I'd love to meet with the seniors. I'd love to meet with the youth groups or church. We had a ministerial alliance in Andover. I met with them quarterly, I think, something like that. So, yeah, whatever the community has, I'd love to participate.
Thank you.
Mary?
Okay. I have a somewhat of a more practical question at this point. So, you know, well, you've been answering a lot of philosophical things, your values. This is probably going to be a little bit easier in some ways. So I have a longevity question. Our former town administrator, in my own personal view, was outstanding, but he had a better opportunity career-wise and also for his family, so he accepted another position. If you were to get this position, what do you foresee in terms of your long-term future? Would you consider being here, 3 years, 5 years? I know you mentioned that you're prepared to move wherever you go at this point after your daughter graduates. So can you talk a little bit more about your long-term goals?
Sure. I really don't like moving. And it's not that. I think in the recruitment brochure, you were looking for a commitment of 5 to 8 years. I think that's entirely reasonable to expect. So I would want to stay as long as I felt, the governing body felt that the relationship was still productive for the community. Sometimes the manager doesn't have a say in their own longevity. But I would like to make a commitment to the community. I think for the first year or two, you're still getting your feet wet and you're trying to get momentum, things you're working on. I think it's positive for a community to have stable leadership. It helps move projects forward. It helps the community gain momentum in its path. So I would like to stay longer than 5 years if possible, as long as it's still productive for everybody.
Okay, can I just ask a
Oh,
follow-up?
sure.
So, short term, I know you're in Alaska until mid-March. Is your commitment correct? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, short term, you would not attempt to commute. You would establish your own residency in Sturbridge or a nearby town so that you could be more accessible. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I thought in your introduction, you said that you were prepared to move yourself.
I am. It may not be on day one. If I won't be back in Connecticut till mid to late March. So if this were to happen, I think I told the selection committee I could be on site the first week of April. So it may take a week or two to find lodging and relocate. So it would be my intention as soon as possible, as soon as practical. I really don't want to commute. I don't like commuting back and forth. I know it's only 40 minutes, but still, I'm used to living like 3 minutes from where but I want to find something as soon as possible in the area.
Thank you.
Okay, now, if you were fortunate enough to get the position, how would you plan spending your first 2-3 weeks?
I would spend my first 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, visiting with people and listening. I think it's important to listen, not speak. I have 27 years of experience in this profession. That doesn't mean that everything done fits this way of doing things. Every community is unique. Every community has developed a behavior pattern that has to be understood and respected. Whether something sounds, every community does things their way. And for me to come in and say, well, I don't want to do it that way, that's wrong. I think I have to understand why things are done the way they're done, how people respond the way they respond. I think I need to respect the work that's been done in the past and see how we should go forward together. So I'm going to spend the first considerable amount of time just listening to people and understanding how things work. But in addition, business still has to get done. You still have Board of Selectmen meetings, you still have projects that are moving forward. So it's kind of a combination of taking care of the immediate needs, understanding where the projects are and the long goals are, and then listening and understanding how decisions get made.
Okay, thank you. Priscilla, do you
All
have?
set, thank you.
Chase, do you have any other questions?
Nope, all set, thank you.
Mike?
I'm okay, thanks.
Mary?
No, I'm good.
And I'm also good. Do you have any closing remarks, or?
I know this is a big decision for the board, and doing this by Skype has to be somewhat uncomfortable. I'm sure you'd rather be face-to-face and in person. So I do appreciate the accommodation, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. We'll be in touch.
Go Patriots.
Have a good day.
Yeah, are you a Patriots fan? That's the,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
That was the right answer.
Right
Two
answer.
extra points.
You get points for that one.
Normally, we,
Actually, my harbor master here is a big Pats fan. He was at the game Sunday.
Oh, wow. Good game. That's good.
I don't know, you could, I know with the other candidates, we had a meet and greet for 15 minutes, which obviously you're not able to do. I don't know.
I know, we do have some department people here. If maybe any one of them would like to ask you a question, or?
Sure.
I see a lot of heads shaking no.
And I don't know if that's good or bad, so,
I think it's good.
okay.
Means we ask the right questions and you answer them honestly. Okay? So, have a good day, and again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
thank you, Jeff.
Okay.